Deputy Speaker, and let me set this out very clearly. For over 70 years, the sons and daughters of Kashmir have been subjected to persecution, oppression, injustice in the most brutal manner. For over 70 years, they have been butchered, maimed and killed at the hands of an occupying Indian military operating under the draconian Armed Forces Special Powers Act. And for over 70 years, they have had their rights eroded, had their freedom stripped away and had their self-determination denied. But what, Madam Deputy Speaker, we saw 2 years ago with the right-wing Modi government unilaterally revoking Article 370 and 35A in direct contravention of United Nations resolutions, in direct contravention of international law, as a war crime in the 4th Geneva Convention, is the biggest assault we have seen on the right to self-determination of Kashmiris, and a clear attempt by the right-wing Modi government to quash the Kashmiri cause. I will give way.
Thanks to my honourable friend for giving way and making a powerful case. Would he agree with me that after decades of oppression and the denial of human rights and the denial of self-determination, the illegal revocation of Article 370 and 35A by the Government of India breaches not only international law, but is a deliberate attempt to quash the Kashmiri people? And furthermore, it's deeply disturbing that the United Nations Security Council meeting, shortly after those revocations, the United Nations Security Council couldn't even agree a statement of condemnation.
My honourable friend is absolutely right. And, you know, Madam Secretary, let me say this. This is a critical juncture for the future of Kashmir. And while today's debate, sadly, will be another debate where we list off a raft of grave human rights abuses taking place in Indian-occupied Kashmir, another debate where we call for action against those perpetrating these grave crimes, where we demand for numerous UN resolutions to be finally upheld, to only then be told by ministers that this is a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan. Madam Deputy Speaker, human rights are never bilateral issues. The right to self-determination is never a bilateral issue. Human rights abuses, the right of a people to determine their own destiny, is never a bilateral issue. It is always an international issue. And let me say this, what message do we in this House send to the Kashmiris? Does a Kashmiri child not feel the same pain as any other child? Does a Kashmiri child not bleed in the same way as any other child? Is a Kashmiri child's life not worth the same as any other child's life? Madam Deputy Speaker, we raise these issues time and time again, but Kashmiris are still subjected to appalling human rights abuses at the hands of a brutal occupying military force. If the UK and the rest of the international community continues to remain silent and continues to refuse to uphold UN resolutions, and the right-wing Modi government continues to actively ignore them to unilaterally quash the Kashmiri struggle, then what is the point of us talking here? And I have to ask this at this point, what is the point of the United Nations when they cannot even enforce, when they cannot even implement their own resolutions? And we have to start asking these very serious questions. My honourable friend makes a perfectly fine point in terms, soon after the revocation of Article 370 and 35A, the United Nations Security Council met and could not even agree a statement of condemnation. That is shameful, Madam Deputy Speaker. We are at a critical point, like I've said, that will decide the future of Kashmir forever. That just talking about Kashmir will not suffice any longer, because whilst we talk and debate, innocent Kashmiri men, women and children continue to be cut down in the streets and their right to self-determination eroded further and further by the day. Instead, this is a time when we must start demanding and forcing real action of our government and of the international community. Madam Deputy Speaker, as a British Kashmiri, as a proud British Kashmiri, I can't do justice to this debate in 4 minutes. Those that have seen me in this chamber know I've spoken, instigated, led on debates in this chamber time and time again. But my final comments as a proud British Kashmiri will be this. And let me be absolutely crystal clear about this. The Kashmiris are not begging the international community. The Kashmiris do not bow before the international community. The Kashmiris around the world unite to demand our birthright to self-determination and to determine our own destiny.